7:37, you're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. Morning to Sean and Mary.
Oh, yes.
Watching from Gozo in Malta with coffee, as we always do here on a Sunday morning.
Oh.
And just to say, Stephen, Mary is your #1 fan.
Oh, that's nice. Well done, Mary.
That's very kind, Mary. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, the idea of just sort of sitting there in Gozo with a nice cup of coffee and watching the telly. That's lovely.
Yeah, I bet it's lovely out there. You've got a nice view. Probably.
Of course you have. Probably a nice little balcony or something.
Oh, nice.
Love Malta.
Don't say Ross, she'll
do.
be off. I've never been, but I really fancy
Oh,
going.
it's wonderful, yeah. Do you remember talking about old phones?
Oh, yes.
With the rotary dial. Sorry. Hair, flies, everything in this today. And whether today's children would know how to dial on a rotary dial phone. Robin says, my old GPO dial phone, built in 1965, still works perfectly. When my 6-year-old granddaughter came to visit, she hadn't a clue. Unfortunately, once she got the hang of it, she kept asking if she could phone people. Huge bill.
But does it still... Because it doesn't work on tones, it clicks. Does that still work on the system?
Well, it must do if she keeps ringing up.
Must do. See, we've got one over there, but actually I think it's a push-button thing, is it?
Oh, that's a cheat, is it?
Is that a push-buttony one?
Don't know.
Don't
We'll
know.
get it in a minute. Janice says our grandson is 8 years old and we have an old-style dial telephone and he's fascinated by it. He loves dialling his mum or dad on it, though he forgets you can't walk around with it.
Yeah. That's the thing. Mind you, it takes ages to dial a number, doesn't it, because of all the clicking?
Yeah, and if you make a mistake, you have to start all over again. Yes,
Yeah.
it does. But that was the way it was done.
Do you remember when mobiles first came out, though? I worked in radio and we had one of, you know, like the cheese, big cheese things. And the nice thing, when
What big cheese things? Sorry.
They looked like big lumps of wedges of cheese, didn't
What,
they?
the
phones.
Oh, yes.
And they... And when I was covering Abby Humphries, that girl in Nottingham who was snatched from the Queen's Medical Centre when she was just a few hours old.
Gosh, you remember that.
And so I was doing all the press conferences and things, and you could use it as a microphone stand at the news conferences.
Oh.
So it came in quite useful. No one ever rang me on it.
No. But before that, if you went out with a mobile phone, it was a suitcase.
Oh, yeah.
It was, It was a suitcase with a phone attached to it on a curly cord. And people used to do that.
And you think that's just the battery?
Yeah.
It was just the battery. And now look at them. Oh.
I know.
I'm going to get one of these new foldable things.
Well, like Eamon's got one, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah, well, he's got...
It broke the other day and half
very...
the screen. So he was getting text messages, but only half of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
the right-hand side.
He needs to upgrade. His is quite a few years old now.
Oh. So you're going to get the very latest.
There's a new one coming out.
Mr. Gadget.
Very soon. And I think I might get it.
Are they doing them yet where you can roll them? The
rollable ones,
yes.
No, there's concept phones like that, but not actual...
They haven't brought them out yet?
No, they're not.
Mind you, that would be a nuisance, wouldn't it?
No, because they do it automatically. It just... Bzzz.
Oh. Yes.
Love all of that.
In his element.
Yes, it keeps me happy for days thinking about it. I spend half my life on YouTube looking at these things.
Do you?
Oh, yeah, I do, yeah.
Shopaholic as well.
Love it. Well, I haven't bought them. I just look at them and pretend I'm going to buy one eventually, maybe. If I can get another mortgage to pay for it.
Well, you don't want a mortgage at the moment.
Oh, no.
Should we take a look at what's in today's papers?
We better had. Sunday Telegraph leading with Russia, as most of the papers are. Mutineers turning back, it says, after striking a deal with the Russian president.
And the Mirror says Putin was pushed to the brink. As a bloodbath now, they say, has been averted after the mercenaries, for some reason, turned back.
More on the Wagner Group in the Sunday Times as humiliated Putin clings on.
And then, as well as talking about Russia, on the front of the Sunday Express, they're playing it big with a picture of sporty Princess of Wales, and because she was playing tennis with Roger Federer at Wimbledon yesterday. They were looking at the work of the ball boys and girls.
Yeah, that's a great shot. An action shot, as they say. Let's go through some of those then with Claire Pearsall and Lewis Oakley, who join us now. Good to see you both this morning.
Thank you.
Claire, let's have a look at the Sunday Mirror, should we? Looking at the mortgage crisis.
Yeah, this is quite interesting take here in the column, Keir Moody's column in the Sunday Mirror, looking at focus groups. So a slightly different view of mortgages and the current financial crisis. And he starts off by saying an accusation constantly levelled at the current Labour Party is that it operates by focus group. And throughout the piece, it looks like the more you are involved in these kind of focus groups, the less likely you are to have a mortgage. So it
really?
quite an interesting take on this, that they tend to be the more well-off, and it doesn't matter whether they are Labour supporters or Conservatives. If you take part in focus groups, you are largely mortgage-free. So you're going to get a bit of a skewed opinion when it comes to financial markets and what's going on currently with mortgages, because it doesn't affect you. So if the Labour Party are now basing their fiscal policy upon the outcomes of these focus groups, then it is going to be skewed in a really odd way.
Yeah.
Because I think if you look into the real world and you start talking to people, and we all know at the moment it's a really, really worrying time. There are people who are going up, their mortgages are going up tenfold. They are doubling at the very least for some people, making it extremely unaffordable. So if you are going to look at policies, unfortunately, with this kind of any kind of financial policy that's going to affect mortgages is going to take a long time to come to fruition. The interest rates are going up, inflation isn't coming down. There's this real bubble about to burst, which we've seen in the past. So you need to be focusing on that.
I wonder how many members of Cabinet have mortgages.
Well, and I think that's really interesting. And I think if you also look at the shadow front bench, there are an awful lot of people there that perhaps are mortgage-free as well. So it isn't affecting some people in the same way. However, they represent constituencies across the country.
They do, but they don't feel the pain of it, do they? It's different. Because if you're Rishi Sunak, not only do you not have a mortgage, but you live in a world where nobody you know has a mortgage either. So you're not getting this visceral, as you said, effect back at you, that this is really dead important.
It is. I mean, my own mortgage comes up in a year's time, and I'm frantically now looking at what's going to happen, how much this could cost, what we can do about it. And it's a really frightening time, and that's 12 months away. Yeah. Some people are going through that right now, and if you can't afford your mortgage, what are you going to do? There is no give in people's budgets.
I'll tell you what worries me slightly, though. I mean, on the policy side of all this, focus groups have their uses, right? But a lot of this is common sense, isn't it? We all know how it feels. It's common sense. Why do these politicians not just employ a bit of common sense about what needs to be done?
But I do think as well, and I'm not trying to reverse where the buck stops with this, but I do think people need to, at least email your local politicians, because I think we kind of, have a little bit of moan about it, talk to our friends, obviously speak to the mortgage advisor. How many people are actually going to, go and see their local MPs and say, look, this is it, this is what the finances look like, and if they don't know anyone that's got a mortgage, well, then the people in the constituency need to go in and make sure that this is high on the priority list. I think we need to forget that sometimes, to go and speak to them.
Well, most backbenchers have a mortgage, don't they? I mean, the backbenchers are a bit more normal.
But to your point on focus groups, if you, in politics, go out there and say, this is our policy and we've worked it out and it's very sort of common sense, and people are going to say, well, what have you got to back that up? And it's that old problem of you need to have some evidence, unfortunately. So they may go for the unscientific way of a group of people sitting around having coffee and biscuits and discussing things. You've always got to have that backup, say, well, this is what people have told us. This is why we're doing it. Normal people. It doesn't mean that your focus group is a sort of a snapshot of the United Kingdom, because it's unlikely to be, as is proved in this article. But unfortunately, in politics, you can't do anything unless you've got a group of people, you've got some evidence, some data or something behind.
Yeah, but as Lewis says, there's tons of emails. If your inbox is full of emails from people who are desperate and need you as their MP to do something about it, that's evidence, isn't it?
Absolutely is, and they need to listen more to those, because those emails that come in are incredibly important, and people's stories, I think, would shape policy a lot better than some clinical list of data that you get from, say, banks or building societies or whatever it is.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point.
Why, Lewis, is the Mail on Sunday looking at how people in their late 50s are feeling about things?
Yeah.
This is quite sad, and I
This is really quite sad. So people in their late 50s feel the least valued, and it's a quite high percentage. 39% of people in their late 50s are saying that they actually feel, and the word they use here is insignificant. So that's horrible. And it kind of boiling down into some of the reasons here. They feel sidelined at work. They maybe have a declining social life and also potentially declining health as they're reaching those late 50s. However, the kind of good side of the story, if you can call it that, is that all declines to about 15% when you reach 70. So you kind of have this horrible period at the late 50s where you feel just undervalued and not having an impact.
Maybe you feel your age is coming your way. By the time you get to 70, you know age has come your way and you feel much more relaxed about it.
Yeah, you could well do. And I think and it's quite interesting in this piece where it says it's when you reach over 70s, you don't really care about others and what they think of you. And I think that would be a particularly nice place to be. I think when you're younger, I think you care a lot about what people think you are.
Yeah.
And as you get older...
I got to that about 35, though, of thinking I don't care anymore. People don't like me, I don't really care.
I was going to say, I mean, I don't suffer from it either. I don't really care. But I know a lot of people do, and especially if you're starting out in the workplace and starting off in your career, you're really concerned about what people think, how you come across. And I think as you get older, you realise it isn't so important anymore. So that's the joy of getting slightly older. But this whole sort of 50s thing, when you're looking down a barrel of, that's worrying, that I'm suddenly going to feel very insecure again.
Oh, it's Nigel. Is he late 50s?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah, a little bit late 50s.
A little bit late 50s. I mean, he'll.
Well, all you can say is don't worry.
Oh, but he can't be worried, is he?
Eventually you'll hit 70 and you'll be happy. Don't worry about it.
And that's what I shall tell him when I get home. But he does.
Don't think he'll
the
appreciate
little
it.
insecurities do come in, and he cares a lot more than I do. Whereas I take this sort of attitude: it doesn't matter.
No, doesn't matter.
I think
Anyway,
as
Nigel,
well-
everyone loves you, Nigel. You're a terrific bloke.
It's not mentioned here, but I do think as well, you know, grandkids as well, having grandkids, obviously not everyone has them, but I spent so much time with my grandparents when I was younger, and I think that it really helps bring them to life. And also, you don't have to do the hard parenting.
That's
you
right.
can just do the fun stuff. And I think I mean, I can't wait for, you know, in the future to be the crazy grandparent that's, you know, breaking all the rules and being outrageous.
What worries me about this, though, is that we are talking as if late 50s is old age.
Yes, I know.
It's not. It's you're just entering middle age.
But then maybe that's why. I know. I mean, we've all had certain ages you reach and you think, oh, no, I don't want to be 40. I don't want to be 50, you know, we have an idea of what it's going to be like. That means I'm really old.
But I think
Are you embracing it though, Anne? Because you're the eldest on the panel this morning.
Yeah.
Your next big birthday is.
Oh, I do it.
It's not that, you know, 12 months away.
Again, it's one of those...
But do you just embrace it and go, actually, sod it.
No, yes.
Sod it.
Yeah. Numbers are a tyranny.
Yeah.
I've always felt that. It's like people who get on the scales and worry about their weight as to the number. Numbers are a tyranny because everybody's different. And one person's age 70 is going to be entirely different from another's, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, look at the things that happen to you health-wise and everything.
But I wonder if there is a bit of a culture change, because if, you know, I think about when I grew up and thought about, you know, what a 30-year-old looked like, and was like, oh, my God, that's so old, and now I'm in my 30s. But I wonder if just the culture is changing. You know, I'm seeing, you know, if I think about when I was with my grandparents, they were kind of their 60s at the time. They weren't really going out and stuff, whereas my parents, as they're kind of reaching mid-50s, they're out and they're on holidays and they're doing... So I think the culture has changed a little bit.
Sorry, your parents are reaching mid-50s?
Yeah.
Get out.
Honestly, just think how that makes me feel. But I mean, 30, 40 years ago, certainly women of my age had white hair, sat in the corner in the comfiest chair in the house, didn't they? And people came to them.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think you always base it, as you were saying about the tyranny of numbers, you always base it on the way you've grown up and how you looked at people. And I remember looking at people in their 40s thinking, that's ancient.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now it really isn't. It's you know, prime of life.
It is the prime of life. It is the prime of life.
Well, it's your job to make it the prime of life, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Whatever age you are.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Now, Lewis, can we have a look at this? Women tear chunks from stripping hunks.
Oh,
the
yes.
Sunday Mirror.
So, rowdy women are being thrown out of West End shows for groping and even biting male strippers. So this is performers at Magic Mike Live say at least 2 women a week have been escorted out.
You've been told about that, Claire.
Didn't think anyone noticed, sorry.
Honestly.
a bit of self-control needed here, really, to be honest. I mean, there is a serious point here around, you know, that is clearly crossing a line. But yeah, I don't know. I think you said there was something as well that had happened. Was it Ladies' Day as well?
Yes, behaviour of women at Royal Ascot. Wearing inappropriate clothing, showing off explicit tattoos. Now, I have no idea what that means, but the Daily Mail informed me that that was what was happening, and behaving in a drunken manner. I think women have always been expected to sit in the corner and be quiet, and that has changed quite rightly over the decades. But the laddish behaviour that we saw in the 90s, I remember growing up with that kind of ladette behaviour, and then that was deemed to not be quite what they wanted, and it's come back. So it's one of these sort of cyclical things. And I think women are always held to very, very different standards to men, especially in these kind of circumstances. Going to something like strippers where it's all women together, they're all having a great time, but they are set to a very high standard, which, if you don't reach it, you're going to fail. And I think that women throughout the centuries have had that. We are always held to a different example to men, and we will continue to be, and
we make
right.
more of a spectacle of ourselves when we fall off our 9-inch heels. And that's always those pictures from Ascot, Ladies' Day and whatever.
Yes, it is.
It's always about ladies who've had a bit too much champagne and then fall off their heels and end up, you know, with their dresses over their heads or something. So it may just be that we set ourselves impossible tasks of wearing miniskirts with high heels. I don't know.
But there's no better time to go out dressed like that. I mean, you know, when you go to the races or something like that, and you dress up and you look at the parts, but it really hurts wearing heels all day. Which is why you always put a pair of sort of flats or flip-flops in your bag.
Well, thankfully, Lewis, we don't need to know about such things, do we?
Exactly.
Lovely. Thank you both very much indeed. Claire, Lewis, we'll catch up with you in the next hour. Lovely stuff. We've got lots more to come, of course, including the latest on the situation in Russia. Really, what next for President Putin after this supposed coup that then seems to have disappeared again? We'll keep you up to date on all the very latest developments. This is Breakfast on GB News.